actually end up more depressed than when they were broke? Well, it's not what you think, but what it is, it's actually coming for you too.
You're listening to the AI Convergence Podcast, presented by Voxe AI, where AI, business, and mindset converge.
Well, in our last episode, we talked about building a business that actually puts us out of a job. The saying for over 2 years now, I built the business that put my business out of business. Well, we are really on the verge of achieving that. And we meant it. But what we're actually building towards, we had to actually ask ourselves, what happens when we succeed? What happens when we achieve that thing that we've wanted so much? What do we do then? And see, there's a pattern that we keep seeing, which is causing us to really ask this question now and dive deep into it, which is why we decided to make this podcast about it, to maybe you guys who are listening, watching, want to ask yourself the same question. But people that chase freedom their whole lives and they finally get it, what you see a lot and what you hear a lot is they feel completely lost. And so today we're going to talk about that thing that nobody warns you about, so you can prepare for it now when it's not too late. That's the hook. So yeah, what is this thing that everybody seems to be chasing? But it's kind of funny actually. Before you answer that question, I just had this thought. Everybody seems to be chasing that. There's tons of gurus that are out there that preach it. You chase that freedom, that lifestyle, work from anywhere, a business that runs without you. And this can be achieved in home services, e-commerce, digital businesses, agency. It really doesn't matter if you have a brick and mortar. Like if you're a business owner, you can achieve this. But then what I see is like all the people out there, like even, like Gary Vee and Alex Hormozy, and I don't know if they're so much about like freedom chasers, but they've built this thing that they've been trying to build for so long, but it almost seems like now they're in this other like social media, YouTube guru influencer thing that they'll never be able to get out of. It's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, I think with those guys, they just like their thing is work. Like they love work. Like listening to Alex Hormozy, he's like, I wake up, I don't have my morning routine. Like I just go straight to work. Like I have my coffee, go straight to work till 5, have dinner, and then do the same thing. So he loves it. So like that's where it gets dangerous. Like you're listening to those guys that are like super successful, but they love doing what they do, which is just head down and grinding all day, every day. Same with Gary Vee.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is like, you got to define what that freedom looks like for you. Is it, certain location, certain lifestyle, certain, freedom. Maybe you love to work and, that's what you do for the rest of your life. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs go into business not knowing, like wanting a lifestyle change, but they don't know what that actually is. So I think that's like the first step is like really defining what that freedom looks like for you, so you know what you're actually chasing.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me when I think about this stuff is the journey. And if you can sort of fall in love with the journey, then that just changes everything. I think if you hate everything you're doing to get to a certain area or certain thing, you're spending 8-12 hours a day on something that you hate to get something that you think will make you happy every single time. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point. The journey and learning to love the journey when it sucks, or embrace
love.
it when it sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you love something, you don't like it every day, but
True.
Kind of like being married.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty similar.
Say,
it's constant work.
You have fights. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like with marriage, there
that's
is
the whole
no
point.
There is no like end goal really.
Yeah.
You're constantly working on it.
Yeah. That is true. It's the love that keeps you together too.
Yeah.
Working on it, improving. Yeah. For me, so I have had the opportunity to be there once. I remember my first agency, I exited in 2019, and and so then we had the freedom, or at least the level of freedom that made us feel comfortable. And we always wanted to do the mountain home thing. So we're like, we're going to sell our house, we're going to move to the mountains. And we started looking, and we found a place that was out there. If you're from Colorado or Salida area, we're out in Cotopaxi, 24 acres, beautiful mountain views, and awesome, little cabin style home. And we were like, this is it. Like, we made it. We're like, we're gonna live here forever. This is our forever home. And because that's what we thought for us, freedom looked like. Being able to live in the mountains. We wanted to grow some of our own food. We wanted to kind of have a little bit of that homesteading, kind of lifestyle, and that, living in, seclusion and peace and whatever. And it was great for a while. And it was actually very healing, I think at that time, that's what we needed. But for us, it lasted about a year and a half. And then we were starting to be like, okay, like we don't have any friends out here. Any of the friends that we have, they have to travel out here, 2 hours to get to us, or we have to go to them. And then, it's like, what does that work look like? So we did a lot of work on the land. We built a lot of things, and that was fun, or not fun, but it was cool. It was like a different type of lifestyle and everything. But then after a while, you start kind of like, or at least for me, you start circling that hole of depression, that black hole of depression. And it's because it's like, well, what am I doing? It's like, what's my passion? Like, am I helping anybody? Where's my friends? And so the whole emphasis was, or the whole realization rather was, it's like, man, community, having friends, community is so important. Driving 45 minutes to do groceries, one way, 30 minutes to get gas. It was, it got old after a while.
Yeah, especially in the snow, I bet.
Yeah. And, and then like the mountain in the valley, it's a really windy road, and it's common that people, crash and, during the snow and whatnot. So sometimes you're just like, no, we're not going, it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And but that's what we thought we wanted, like this was the dream. And we still have the house. We kept it because it's a beautiful place to go, have a weekend away and have peace and serenity and quiet. And you all need that. Everybody needs that. But I found myself wanting to start another business, because like I felt like I just needed something. But I sunk into depression. It caused a lot of challenges in our marriage that we had to work through. And I'd say the last 6 months of us living out there was really like challenging, not so happy. It wasn't great. And, that's, I think, what I've seen happen in some people that I've helped, optimize and whatnot, to where they don't any longer have to be that main person in their business. But then it doesn't last long at all. Like they just find something else to get themselves involved in, because and there's quite a few reasons why that happens. And I had to face my dark night of the soul, through those 2 years out there too. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting transition.
Did you like what were your thoughts on, like, so you would move out there, and I mean, you're kind of a born entrepreneur, like you've been running businesses at an early age, did you think you were ever going to stop working, or did you ever like dive into any new passions or hobbies?
Yeah. So that's another funny thing too, is because I never was going to stop working, but I wanted to be doing what I was passionate about, what I absolutely loved. And I only wanted to do that. And that was and is helping people. I'm extremely in the way of deep personal development, right? Like I'm very passionate about that. Because I myself went through those things. If there's, I think, videos on YouTube, or there will be, or we talked about in another podcast, where at a young age, I was born and raised in a cult, and those programs had such a profound impact on my life that I didn't realize when I was an adult and trying to be a successful business owner. And my level of success was always tied to what my pre-programming would allow me to. So I was able to overcome that. I was able to do the healing work. I was able to rewrite my subconscious beliefs, and it changed my life massively. And that is the reason why I was able to build that first business to the point to where I could exit it. And that was the first time that I saw where my belief system, my pre-programming that I endured whenever I was a child, and the way that I looked at the world had a direct effect. No matter how hard I worked on my businesses, had a direct effect on what I was able to achieve. So whenever I was able to unlock that, and also improve my marriage, my relationships with people, my business, my success, everything, it made such a profound impact on my life that's what I wanted to help people do. And that was like, this is, I'm like, this is why I'm here. Like, this is the reason why I believe that everybody comes, is here on earth. They have a purpose, a passion, a reason for their existence, because everybody has their own unique gifts. And I felt like that was mine. And I still feel, to a large extent, that that's still it. And so to answer your question, it's like, well, now I'm going to be out here in the mountains. We still had internet, even though it was like probably 10 times better than dial up, but you could still have Zoom calls and whatnot. And I was like, I'm going to build my consulting business out here. I'm going to build, I'm going to help people. I'm going to help them with their reprogramming. And this is my passion. And this is the kind of consulting that I'm going to build. And it was really tough. It was challenging, because anytime you build something new from the ground, it's not easy. And so there was a lot of things that I tried, and, you have to go through iterations and all this other stuff. But one thing I did find is that sitting out in the mountains, growing food, building, working on the land, all that stuff, it was very nourishing, and it is great. But when you do it as a day in, day out life, like, you're just kind of like, okay, I've had enough of this.
Well, that's work in itself, just maintaining the land, and you guys had so much of it. So it's like living on a farm. Like, there's always work to do. Yeah.
And so there was that. And then, but what I found is that even though those things kept us busy, I still felt that emptiness, like that passion, the drive. But then it's really hard to grow something. Even if it's a passion, it's really hard to grow any kind of business model when you're in the mountains and, you don't have any connection with anybody,
Yeah.
So like, you're forced to have to find communities online, and then you're literally completely limited to running paid ads or doing a lot of the digital reach out and whatnot. So that way people know who you are, what you do, and building that up. And that just added a whole other challenge dynamic to it. And then I found myself kind of resenting my passion because I wasn't able to get it going and turn it into something because we didn't have infinite amounts of money. Like, and that's another thing. You're seeing the savings kind of like dwindle and dwindle, every month. And that has its own effects on your marriage and yourself. And so, moving here to the city in Colorado Springs was the best thing that, that we did. Mm-hmm. And as they say, the rest is history. But, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. No, it does. Cause it's like, part of the, the thing is like, once you get there, like what now? What do you do?
Yeah.
So, Trey, like, I know you went to school and, you went to school for finance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what were your thoughts, coming out of school? And like, I know you shifted into more of like a entrepreneurial mindset. Like, what are your thoughts at your age and like fresh out of school, on like what freedom or what that end goal looks like to you?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur since I was like 13 when I was trying to make a lawn mowing business.
Nice.
And I was trying to make my first website on like, I don't even know what it was back then, like 2016 or 2010 or whatever. I don't even know what, but yeah, it was
probably Wix or something.
I think it was Wix. Like,
it's not as easy as it is today.
It was, I remember it was like so complicated and so difficult to figure out. I'm like, this is so hard. I don't know how, but
like HTML and
Java. Well, I was
and all
just
that.
trying to use a website builder.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't coding anything.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was still confusing.
He's 25, so like
That's
for
right,
him, he was in still the drag and drop.
It was drag and drop. I was like,
yeah, we were like HTML.
Yeah, we were HTML times.
Oh man.
Yeah. So it was even easier, but it was not easy. Still. Yeah. So it's actually I've reflected on that and think it's pretty funny because I had that experience with trying to build a website, but I think just in college and like up to this point in my life, freedom is, I don't know if it's freedom, but I think freedom is, to me, it's just like improving every day because it's an infinite thing. Like there's no end to it. Which gives me peace of mind. I don't like an end because like we're going to talk about, the end is a trap. You hit an end and everything all of a sudden that you've been working towards, your identity, everything just goes away. You have this crisis. So I think ultimately freedom is just living every day a way that like you're proud of and that you can, you're happy about. And then we were talking about love earlier. It's kind of a similar thing. Like you don't have to like it every day, but did you improve? Do you do better? How are you reflecting? Like, are you going to take these lessons and use them for tomorrow? I think that just, like, I don't know. I think it's pretty hard to break someone's mind if they have that because they just keep going. So
yeah,
that's what it is to me, I think. So
yeah, I think that's good. I mean, I think having freedom is the ability to have the opportunity to improve yourself. Like if you're kind of in a rat race at work, you're just focused on that soul thing, improving in that little box or area. And there's not room for self-development because you're kind of not really, it's kind of taboo to talk about like improving yourself in the workplace and stuff. It's all about just metrics and KPIs and things like that. So yeah, being able to step outside that, improve yourself and yeah.
And I think that's just to kind of touch on what you said there. It's true. And I think it's slowly changing, like in the workplace that, like personal development is, or like mindfulness at least is becoming a little bit more of a conversation, I think. But yeah, thank you for sharing what freedom means to you. I think I'm going to share what it means to me because it got me thinking about it. And like For me, freedom is, and I've actually thought about this a lot. It's like, what is freedom to me? And it's actually not freedom from working. Freedom for me is the freedom to be able to make the choices, the decisions that I want to make whenever I want to make them without money having to dictate that, what I can or can't do. And to me, like that's what freedom really looks like, to where whatever that, financial level is, and everybody has their own different one, to where you're like, I can pretty much now do whatever I want within reason, right? Like not going and buying a yacht and traveling around the world or something, but like do whatever I want and have that freedom to be able to be like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I think we should do that. And not have to be like, well, can we afford it? Right. Mm-hmm. And so, because growing up in a simple household, my parents weren't rich. They weren't, poor. I'd say we were kind of like middle income, maybe a little less. And then me, up until my 40s, I never made close to six figures, and so it was always that was my life, like, well, I want to do this, or I want to travel, or I want to go do that, or I want to experience that. Well, can I afford it? Mm-hmm. And so for me, freedom was like, I want to be able to do whatever I want to do and not have to have that money conversation, mm-hmm. Have real options, real, decision-making power, and not to have that, that over me. It's like I said, I do what I want, Yeah. So yeah. And you also make a good point too, Trey, is that, if like, you're never going to start growing. As a matter of fact, I remember hearing a study a long time ago, and I can't put all the pieces together now, but the gist of it is that if the moment we are designed to continually grow and evolve. And they found that people that actually stop, or they remove themselves from a situation where they're learning new things or growing or whatever, they actually die faster. And like your body, literally, your brain literally begins to just decay. And so I don't think we're designed to do nothing. I just think that we were spending too much time doing the things that we're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah, what was that quote? Once you stop growing, you start dying. Something like that. I think that was. Yeah. Don't know who said that, but yeah, it's true. I mean, as like a species, if you go back to like our ancestors, were always walking, nomads, hunting, gathering, nobody was ever still, mm-hmm. or like obese, or, sitting on the couch eating candy. Yeah.
Playing Candy Crush.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, freedom for me aligns with, like both of you guys for sure. There's a growth aspect, like constantly growing, having the ability to constantly grow, but there's also like a money aspect too, where, yeah, I mean, we've been in periods in our life where it's like, should we, just eat that can of Spam or ramen? There's this underlying like perspective of like, can I afford that? So, and there's like a threshold, right? I think it's like on average, people that make $75K a year, like that's all they need to be happy. Anything more than that is just excess. Anything less is, maybe a little bit of a struggle, but just having the ability to like, walk through life without worrying about, mm-hmm. what you're going to eat, how much you're going to spend. Can you afford this? If you see something, for your kid on the shelf, like having that, decision fatigue. Oh, should I buy this? What's it going to do to the bank account? So yeah, there's definitely a threshold there that once you reach it, it's nice. You have that comfort.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's largely dependent on where you live.
Yeah.
I think you could live in Kentucky for $75K a year and be pretty happy. But I wouldn't be able to survive.
You'll be balling in Kentucky,
Yeah,
but you might be in the same situation.
but I might not be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true though. Like everybody's thrust. And here's the really cool thing too, is like, we do have the freedom to set that threshold, whatever it is, right? Like you do have a choice to set your cost of living at whatever level you want, you know? And, you know, you can be comfortable with a nice little 2-bedroom home. It's simple. And if you're happy with that and you're able to easily provide for your family, and you have your car, all the things that you need, and that's awesome. You know, I think that's everybody's goals or happiness is completely different, which is why, you know, social media is so, I think, debilitating in a way, because it sets that level. There's a lot more people out there talking about like what happiness is, you know, traveling around the world, or, you know, living on an island and doing, you know, laptop work and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And, you know, or eating the finest foods, or, you know, whatnot. And, you know, and so then it makes you get that FOMO. People, social media and marketing is so good at delivering fear of missing out. I'm like, well, you know, I have a good life, but I want that too, you know? And then you start feeling lack. And so then you're just like, then now you find yourself, you know, in debt, because you want to achieve and experience those things. And so, yeah, you know, there's just a huge balance about it. But, you know, moving on to this like trap, it goes a lot deeper really than, because even if you have the money to be able to make all the decisions, and this is what I firsthand experienced, even if you have the money to make the decisions, you're living in the place that you perceive that you literally had on your vision board, you know, for years, there's one thing that you'll never be able to escape, and that is yourself. And that's most of us know like what we're running from. Like, I'll never do that again, or I'll never be that again, or I'll never find myself in that situation again. So we were in this trauma response where we work so hard, but very few of us know what we're running to. And that's the part where the trap that nobody talks about. You know, it's like you're just running, but where are you going, right? What does it look like when you get there? And, you know, so, you know, what if the freedom that you're chasing doesn't feel the way that you think it will? What if it actually feels terrible, you know, and painful? And you know, people are like, well, I'll be happy when, you know, or, you know, we tell ourselves that happiness is on the other side of a goal, but what if it isn't? I think we've all achieved goals at some level. And then, so what? We're done. We never have that goal again. Then you find something else. You want to do something else. And the reason is, we can talk about other things too, but you know, it's that identity. So for most business owners, and even like myself, I identified myself as an entrepreneur. And it's really funny because I would criticize, you know, like I was born and raised in, I mean, all intent and purposes, a religious cult. And one thing that I would, after years and years of being away from it, I would kind of criticize is that it's like, that was your identity. Because they're like, oh, well, you know, who are you? And then that was literally, oh, I'm a, you know, and that was your identity. You very rarely were like, oh, I'm Matt Aponte and I'm a blah, blah, blah. It was just like, oh, I'm a. So that's your identity. So then when you no longer have that identity anymore, you go through this whole dark night of the soul, if you will, because when your identity gets stripped apart, then you really are just like, oh my gosh, you know, they call that midlife crisis. You know, it's like, who am I? What am I doing? Why do I even exist? We talked about empty nester syndrome a couple podcasts ago. You know, moms experience it when their kids leave, or, you know, they don't have to be a mom anymore. Like, if I'm not a mom, you know, who am I? fathers the same way, married people who've been married forever and then they find themselves single. Like you have these identity things when that identity is stripped away from you. And so if that's why most business owners and entrepreneurs, they'll build a business, it gets successful and they sell it. And what do? Build another business.
Yeah.
It's like, because you haven't addressed your identity, and your identity is I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's the leaving a whole belief system at 27, like I did, and then I was left with who am I? Who is this person? What am I? Because everybody was telling me who I am, what I should be doing, how I should act, operate, the beliefs that I should have. Mm-hmm. And that same thing happens to you when you achieve that goal, Mm-hmm. And so I think it's smart for people to think about that prior as you're going on this journey of what you're chasing. Like, who do I now need to become? So that way I can fully step into that new role. Yeah. It's probably a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that idea of running from something, not knowing what you're running to. Excuse me. The idea of running from something, not knowing what you're running to. That's a good thought exercise because, for a long time, and probably the same for you, I don't know about you, Trey, but with me, like my desire to gain my version of freedom was fueled by running from the idea of what I didn't want to become. So that was like driving me, but I didn't really know what like that looked like because I've never been there. I just knew that I didn't want to be that anymore. Mm-hmm. A lot of that was like, bad father, and then some leadership in the jobs that I was in were just really poor, and then like so that influenced me to like jump ship and try and be my own person. But yeah, I didn't know what that looked like, so that caused a lot of turmoil. Like, okay, what am I doing? I'm spinning my wheels, and then that turns into a feedback loop of like, okay, what the heck am I doing? Am I stupid? This is like, what have I done? Type of thing. So yeah, it's a good point to, try and figure out what your identity is outside of those kind of like surface level ideas and thoughts. And think about like where you are going and what it's going to look like when you get there. So yeah, what was that? Another quote I came across recently is, forget who said it, but it was like, you climb a mountain, you get to the top, and even though you know what it looks like, you find another mountain to climb.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Probably butchered it, but yeah, going back to entrepreneurs that sell and then, build another business.
And I think that the answer lies somewhere in between, right? Because I truly for myself don't believe that, happiness lies in, I wake up every morning, I brush my teeth at 6:30, I have my coffee at 6:40, and I sit on the porch and I take a walk up the road. Like I don't think that that's what happiness is, where like I'm doing the same thing every day and basically just sitting around, back to Trey's point, it's like growth and evolution, like the freedom to be able to, well, I want to learn new things, I want to travel. I want to, grow or build or learn to speak different languages or, do stuff like that. And I think that's where the happiness lies, which is why for me, I equate the ability to be able to do that. Like I like to paint, but I haven't painted in 2-3 years. And I want to be able to paint more and do my abstracts. But then I have to carve out that time in order to do that. And then whenever I've carved out that time, I'm usually like tapped creatively. So then I don't feel like painting. And so then that's why I correlate freedom is not having to bust my ass 60, because reality is more like 60 hours a week, and do all these things because of the money, right? Like, well, I need to build, because now it's more than just me, it's you guys, it's the rest of the team, building the business to where it supports us at that level where, because I don't want freedom just for me, I want freedom for everybody on the team. And so for me, achieving that level of money and sustainable business practices allows that freedom, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take next week off and do absolutely nothing, so that way I can have that creative energy, so that way then I can start painting. I want to be able to do that and not have to worry about, oh, what's the business doing? Or, oh, I gotta make sure that this is working, or whatever it is, right? Mm. And so, for me, that's I've and I think that there's people out there, a lot of people that disagree with me, but I've gone through that whole, like I've wanted to be the freaking guru in the mountains that nobody knows. And, and it's like, oh, the old wise man, I've learned so many things. I've had so many mushroom journeys in ayahuasca, and I've done all of these things, and I've meditated for 10 years and, and all this stuff. And, and then I can help people through my infinite wisdom, but at the end of the day, the world that we live in is built off of an exchange, a currency exchange, and currency is energy, right? Current. And so the way that works right now is an exchange of money. So that way I can do, like, there's literally nothing that you can go and want to do without having to pay for it, right? You have to give that exchange. And so for me, I'm just like, okay, well, then it's money. It's money that helps me to be able to have that freedom. And I have shared that with people, and some people are like, well, money doesn't buy happiness. No, it doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy the ability to make decisions. Mm. It does buy the freedom to choose where your happiness comes from, Yeah. And the people that say that money doesn't buy happiness have never made enough of it to experience that, and it's really nice when you're in that position to where you're just kind of like, well, I can do whatever I want today, I
think Daniel Tosh said, you guys know who Daniel Tosh is, the comedian?
Tosh Point Oh.
Yeah. He was like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody crying on a jet ski.
Right.
So it helps a little bit,
Yeah.
It at least takes a little bit of weight off your shoulders.
Yeah.
A little bit of that stress away.
But there is that other side of it, right? Like, and I've been able to experience it where it's like, oh, okay, I'm alone. I have the silence. I have no distractions. Mm-hmm. Now I have to face myself.
Yeah.
I have to face the deeper parts of me that I've been running from. And, I don't know that this is the podcast to get too deep in that, but I am interested to see what, Trey, I don't know if you really accurately represent your generation, because if you did, you probably wouldn't be working here with us.
I think you're on the high end of the curve.
The more higher intelligence evolved end of that. But I mean, what do you think, how all this kind of, because you have a lot of different, you're 25, so you're still forming your identity. You're still deciding what that is. You're still thinking, Jesus Christ, 25 years from now, you're only 50, right? So you have so much life left in front of you. What are some thoughts that come across, you in the way that you think?
Well, I've already done it a lot up to this point, which is like, I have this core identity of who I am, and then I have like these sub identities. So like in college, it was professional soccer player. I had a sub identity of being a scholar and doing the work, and I'm that kind of person who's going to put in more work than everybody else, in both of those, for playing soccer, I was going to be better. I was going to be the person that's more athletic because I'm putting in more effort to be faster and more skilled, more agility. I'm doing the things that no one else is doing, or except for the professionals. So I look at, who do I want to be? How can I be like them every single day? And that's like the sub identity. Because if you wrap yourself in that identity completely, it's going to end. Like none of that lasts forever. And then when it goes away, then you're like Michael Phelps and everyone else. And I've gone through it too. You're depressed. You don't know who you are. You don't know what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. So I was a scholar. I was a professional athlete. Then now I'm a CTO. Like that's a whole different sub identity, but that's not going to last. Like next year I could be something completely different. 3 months I could be something different. So, but I'm never, like, my core identity doesn't change. I'm someone who improves every day and becomes a different version of myself throughout time. That's what it is to me. I mean, that's been my journey so far, and I've already gone through multiple sub-identity shifts. Like, those are just 3 examples. So I think it's a skill too. Because if I put 15 years into being one of those, it'd be a lot harder to pivot to the next one unless you're doing it along the way with other things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's just a skill, and not a lot of people practice it because society doesn't want you to. Society wants you to do one job, be one part of the society, be the expert in this, and then spend your whole life doing that. And then when you're no longer useful for society, you can leave. Mm-hmm. Then what are you left with?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
see what I mean? That's not an accurate representation of millennials in this world. But yeah, so how do we prepare for that, right? Don't wait until you arrive to figure out what you want. Start filling out this canvas now, because you have to start planning the painting as you're building the frame, right? Before you're putting the canvas on. And so we talked about that. Continue learning, always acquiring new skills, language, instrument, craft, not for productivity, but for growth. And that's one thing where we all align is like constant growth. I mean, I'm constantly questioning myself. This is a challenge. This is something a friction that I experienced. How can I grow? What opportunity is there for growth? What are the learnings that I have experienced that have nothing to do with work? And those are the most in my life, going on now 47, those are the most important things that I've learned. Even my challenges through entrepreneurialism have caused me to look deeper into my personal development. And it's just really been a mirror that's reflected back to me so that way I could see the things that I need to learn. And those things that came out of that were more important to me than the work that I was doing. And then you have service. And that's another thing too. It's like, what are you doing how are you serving the world in a way that maybe has nothing to do with work? And if you can do both to where like that's your work and you're actually serving and you're creating this beautiful exchange of currency, that's a wonderful balance, place to be. But a purpose, right? Something beyond just making money. And admittedly, that's been something I've been chasing. And I think this year because we have these conversations a lot in the office, like this year, I'm going to finally really be able to get there to where the purpose that I feel that I have in life and what I do have as a business to generate my income. For 5 years, I've been trying to merge those together to where they both come into one. And I think I'll finally be able to achieve that this year. And then creation. And this is a big thing. I think, we're all creators. I believe. Every single one of us are creators, whether we know it or not. But what if you were intentionally creating? What would you create? And so those are 3 pillars that we can talk about. What do you think about that, Christian?
I think service is a good one. I think that kind of stands out because for me, I was struggling with finding purpose in the position that I was a few years ago. And through that, like self-discovery of like, what is my purpose? It wanted me to help other people find their purpose, because like you said, I think we're all creatives. We're all meant to create. We're all meant to do something. So I think we do have a purpose on this earth, not just to exist. And then that just became like, if you're struggling to like find like a core identity, I think serving others is a good way to start, because that just brings you away from yourself and just always thinking about yourself to other people. And if you have other people relying on you, or if you have like the motivation to help and serve other people, that's such a good intrinsic value to have, that can propel you like pretty far. And that could become your identity. You just become somebody that serves other people. And, there's an infinite amount of ways to do that. And as business owners, I think that's at the core what you're doing. You're adding value to people. You're providing services. So yeah, that one kind of stood out.
Yeah. Which one stood out for you, Trey?
I think continual learning and services are both like fundamental anchors. I think there's probably some other anchors too, that if you do them all, then creation just comes naturally. Like it just happens. I remember like when I was doing all of those anchors, all of a sudden, and I'm doing all my training and everything, all of a sudden when I'm on the soccer field, I'm doing things that like I'm not even thinking about. I'm just like doing things like just like ridiculous, like random creative things. But if I'm thinking about, and it's impossible to do that when you're thinking about other things, like you're literally in flow. And I think without anchors, it's like proving to yourself, I'm consistently someone of service. You don't have to think about or question yourself if you're someone of service, because you already believe that you are, because you've consistently done it. And the same thing with learning. Like I don't have to think, am I someone who learns or is getting better or improving? I don't have to question that. And I think the questioning, when you get rid of the questioning, you can be creative, like fully enter flow, just like that. Randomly, you're just doing something and all of a sudden you're in flow because you're subconscious, or you're not thinking about those things that you might be like stressed about. Like, I want to be this person, but I haven't been doing the things that make me that, which can wear on you, even if you're not consciously thinking about it.
Yeah. That's really true. It's like, because I see that a lot in my life, the continual learning. So like, we transitioned into AI, and there's always something there to learn, even just trying to keep up with it. You're constantly learning, which has been fun. And then being in service, like our business, we literally are a service-based business. We provide services to businesses, which is rewarding because, it's nice whenever you get to see the businesses are benefiting from that, especially the ones that have been with us long, and then they're like, yeah, we literally saw a 32% increase this year over last year, and it's tied to what you've, done for the business. Like, that's awesome, and then, so for me, that has led to, as you guys know, like creation of tools that can then further and maximize our service. And then you're continually learning to be able to better optimize those things that you've created. But I've been in such a creation mode especially now, like this last month, it just kind of flows. It just like comes to you and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then now, we talked about it last month or week, sorry. Like we're at a place to where if you know how to use the tools, like you can literally create at the speed of thought, almost. And so, yeah, I think that was a great way to put that. So what Christian, what passions are you nurturing right now? Or have you put everything on hold?
My passion is work, Matt. That's all I want to do.
I want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, my clothing business was a big passion of mine, which is ultimately what I started doing after my career. And there's a whole purpose-driven brand and things like that. But then the logistics of life and, trying to run that business and operate it as something that would be my sole source of income was, became a challenge. So that goes back to having that, that cushion of money and resources to be able to dive into, what you're really passionate about, like not having to worry about, the food on the table or the clothes on your back, helps. So that frees up, that time to be able to focus on passions. And there was a good thought here in the brief that talks about, is thinking about too much freedom a luxury. It kind of is, I think, because a lot of people are just constantly thinking about, how am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to feed my family? Sometimes work is like good structure that people need. They go in, they have benefits, they have steady paycheck. So freedom for them is like an afterthought. But for me, my passions are still, wanting to help other people. Kind of goes back to service. But, I tie in the creativity with my clothing brand. Trying to make something cool that people want to wear that also has a message attached to it. So that's constantly in the back of my head. And that's how I know it's my core identity, what I really want to be doing. And, you just have to make time for it. So, I wake up early before the kid wakes up, before my wife wakes up, and I spend, even if it's an hour, just hyper focused on that one passion, whether it's designing a piece of clothing or making a piece of content or just even, brainstorming and thinking, like setting aside that time for yourself. At least for me, has been important. So yeah.
What's the website?
Supernatural.co. SPRNTRL.
SPRNTRL.
Yeah. Supernatural without the vowels.
Okay. .co. Yeah,
Check it out.
Yeah, and that's another and you guys know this, I've had this conversation many times, is building what we're doing so that way it's not disposable, but to where it provides a lot of impact, but then it generates that sustainable revenue so that we can really make that transition, or at least I can, into what I'm super passionate about, the personal development, the brainwave entrainment frequencies, helping people on those and not having to, like, being able to do it without having to think about, oh, I'm putting time in this, so I need to make money, and that's freedom. A perfect example is one of my other businesses apps is Serenipaw, and it's frequencies for that can be used to help dogs with anxiety or animals really with anxiety. And so there's a foundation out of Arizona who, funnily enough, it's the woman that back in 2020 gave me the idea, or actually asked, because I created Nutrizen, which is another one of my businesses, helps people with, frequencies to help them sleep better, anxiety, insomnia, ADD, focus, etc. And she asked if I had anything for animals, because she was a first responder. She also worked with service dogs and everything a lot. And I was like, I don't know. So after a few months of development, I created something. Well, just last week, we were talking because we were catching up, and she was like, hey, she says, I'm putting together this package for my foundation because she has a nonprofit now. And she said, people can buy the package and then they can gift it. For every package that they buy, we gift it to service dogs and families in need. And she says, and I would love to have some of those pet frequencies that are part of that package. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so I packaged it up, sent her a link. I'm like, here, put it in the package. Like, I'm not making any money off of that. Right. And that wasn't even a concern. The time that I spent on that, I'm like, well, how much money am I going to make off of that? Doesn't matter. Like, but that's like the part where it felt good. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Like, I'm there, I'm close. Right. To where I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to gift, frequencies to everyone. I'll be able to give them away for free, or to where it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care. I'm building my purpose. I'm providing, I'm helping people, I'm helping pets, with real tools that actually make an impact. And so, that being able to experience that and not have at all the thought of money come into it was the kind of freedom that I'm really, looking for and chasing. So yeah.
I think that's a good indicator. Like when you're willing to do something and you're not concerned about the money. Yeah, there's been times where I've given clothes for free just because I want to get the message out there, help somebody. So yeah, I think that's a good way to gauge whether what you're doing is genuinely like what you in your heart want to be doing, or if it's just a money thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think to kind of bring this into land, don't wait to discover who you are after you've automated your work, because all the smart business owners over the next year or two, you're going to be using AI or tools that firms like we've created at some level to automate your work to free you up. Right. So don't wait to figure out who you are until after that. Right. And then you're able, you got 30 extra free hours. You're like, oh, what am I going to do now? Like start figuring that out now. And this isn't a warning to stop chasing freedom. I think we all should continue to chase freedom, because in that chase, you're going to discover who you need to be or who you didn't think you were, in that. And that's all part of growth. We're just kind of warning you to prepare it. And yeah, we did use some clickbait to get you to listen to this. But who doesn't have a good little bit of clickbait?
It was worth it.
It was worth it. And so some great practical questions you can ask yourself. If you had 10 hours of free time this week, no obligations, money didn't matter, didn't depend on it, what would you do? And if you don't have an answer for that, well, that's the work. Find the answer. Another one is, what part of your identity exists outside of your work? As a spouse, parent, creator, learner, outside of your work, do you identify as a spouse, as a creator, as a parent, as a learner? So dig deeper into your identity, who you really are. And are you deferring life until after? What's the one thing you can start doing now? I've fallen into this trap early on. They say like, oh, I'll sleep when I die, kind of a thing. It's like, I just have to spend the years building this. And then, like that's the same thing that corporate America tries to get you into, stay here until you're 65 and then retire. Then you can live your freedom, like fuck that.
Yeah.
So it's not only about entrepreneurs. AI is going to force this question on millions of people. When 30 to 60% of tasks get automated, people will suddenly have time that they didn't ask for. And this is the mindset shift that we talked about in episode 3. So it's coming whether you're ready for it or not. You're either going to be forced into it or you're going to be manufacture it and create it in your life. So start filling your canvas before you're building the frame or you finish the frame. And anything else you guys want to touch on?
No, I think that was great. That was an awesome discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you enjoyed this, like, follow, comment, subscribe, thumbs up, heart, share, whatever it is. We're on YouTube and Spotify right now, coming soon to Apple Podcasts as well. And stay tuned for next episode, and we'll see you on the flip side.